I'm Faye Waterman.
Hey, Faye.
This is Talking All Things Business. And my guest today is Peter Hursey, the property wellness doctor. And we are going to be talking about geomancy today, Peter. Is that correct?
That is correct, Faye. You're right on the ball today, which is good.
I'm glad I'm right on the ball. Thanks, Peter. Now, look, we've had conversations about environmental stresses and all those sorts of things, the natural resources and everything like that in the past. But today, just explain what geomancy is to start with.
Yeah, okay. It's probably going to have to go around it from a few different angles to give you a bit of an idea about it. But
that's okay.
Geomancy is around working with earth energies traditionally, and looking at earth stresses and things that affect people's health and their emotional health. I think back in the early days of the knights in shining armour and all that sort of stuff, they would actually have standing stones at the top of a hill which would protect a village from the geopathic stress coming up from an underground stream crossing through a township.
So would they put that on the actual stress, or would they put it away from the stress?
It'd be a specific place. It's an acupuncture point, so you'd actually have to search for the right place or the best place to put it. And you probably wouldn't want it in your house either, because it'd be a huge stone probably, and like all acupuncture needles, they all emit yucky energies, so yeah, you don't want to be too close to them either.
Is that why when someone has acupuncture and the person that does it goes out of the room and leaves you for a period of time?
Right on the money today, Faye.
Right,
yep.
Okay. I've never had acupuncture, so yeah, okay, that's interesting. All right, let's talk a little bit more about, I've got here feng shui luck from 3 sources. What do you mean?
Yeah, okay, so this is a little bit of background. So geomancy is often part of feng shui, but a lot of people don't get into the earthly side of it. A lot of people just play with the layout of furniture and houses and things, or actually play with the earth energies themselves. Some of the really older traditional feng shui people deal with both. But in the feng shui terms, they say that your luck comes from 3 sources, okay? You have heaven luck, you have personal luck, and you have earth luck, okay?
Right.
So heaven luck is where you're born, the parents you're born to, the time you're born into, the wealth and all that sort of stuff. So once you're here, you've pretty much got your lot in life from that. Second one is personal luck, and that is where we spend all our resources. So this is stuff that we do for ourselves generally. So that's the house that we pick, it's the people that we hang around, it's the education that we give ourselves, it's the diets that we go on, going at all these personal development courses and things. That's all personal luck, okay? And I should go back one step and say each one of these is worth about 1/3 of your luck. So there we've dealt with 2/3 of our luck, and that second one costs us a lot of effort and resources. That's our personal development stuff we're doing every day.
Takes up a lot of our energies.
Yeah, both our own energies plus our resources that we need to put in to get those things to happen. Some of these personal development courses I've done have been, 10 grand or something like that. So they're big expenses, big investments in yourself, and that takes some funding, etc. And sometimes you got to find the right ones for you as well. Sometimes it's a waste of time for you. You haven't picked the right one, or it's a learning process. You don't necessarily know what you want. You've been to something and it's not what you want, which is a bit like life and choosing your life's path.
That's true, but then let's sort of stay on that for a minute with, you find that people continually do professional development and they don't actually use what they've learned in the past or actually have within themselves. I think a lot of the time they need to realise that they have so much knowledge and skills and wisdom to be used before they go and do another stream of professional development. That's what I'm seeing anyway. So what's the third source? Explain the third source.
Just on that.
Right.
Just on that point, Faye, I remember one of my my immediate managers was talking to his manager and saying, I want to go and do another management course, please. And his management manager said to him, well, I think I need to see evidence that you put in place all the stuff you've already learnt.
Yeah.
So it's exactly what you just said there. You can only absorb so much stuff, and if you don't actually take action on those things, then you've wasted all your time and effort.
That's right. That's so true.
Become an oxygen standard.
That's right.
But there, the third one, which you talked about, was earth luck.
Okay,
so
what's
earth luck's also worth 1/3. Earth luck. So that is where Feng Shui and Geomancy come in. So this is the luck that flows to you, all the energies that you're on. So the support that the earth and the environment gives you for your life. So facing in the right direction, having the house in the right place, having your house away from stresses that supports your health. So it can be simply as a matter of turning your couch around so you're facing stuff coming in the door rather than having your back to it. They can make huge differences. For the way I set my house up with Feng Shui. Sorry, Faye, you've got a question?
Yeah, so what about windows? Because if you put a chair back to the window, what are you blocking instead of allowing to come in? Not just doors. Yeah,
I'm not sure about windows, so to speak, because I'm not actually a Feng Shui expert. I know a few basics, but definitely having your bed head up to a window is not good. So, and definitely having your back to a doorway. I know personally, I've done a lot of martial arts and stuff, but if I sit in a restaurant and my back's to the door, I don't enjoy my meal. I feel on edge all night. Turn myself around so I can see what's coming in the door, and it's a completely different experience for me.
Well, I'll tell you what I did.
Also, I'll give you a little tip.
Yeah.
A little tip, what I used to do is also when I go to a meeting, when I work back in the professional space, I'd actually get to a meeting early and I'd actually pick my seat in the office or the meeting room. I'd actually have it facing in the right direction and I would have my back, so my back is to a wall and I'm facing a doorway, which puts you in a power position to actually then have the meeting. And the meeting just goes so much differently.
Yeah,
just a little bit of preparation. Anyway, maybe you had something to say.
Yeah, I actually had my back facing to a door with my desk, and I've turned my desk around, and my desk now it's opened up the space and I can see the door. It's not right in front of me, but it's the door. If the door opens, I can see it and all the rest of it. And someone said you need a solid wall behind you, but if you can't have a solid wall, then as part of a solid wall and a window has to do. But it's made all the difference. Yeah, we can always
pull the curtains. It's got to help.
Yeah, it's made all the difference in the change of energy, just me reversing my desk. So, yeah.
I refuse to have my desk facing a door. And the other thing is too, I've got pretty yucky little reflexes. If someone comes around and slaps me from behind, I'm likely to turn around and smack them. That's probably not good for their health or my professional future. So,
Okay, so they're the three sources: birth, professional development or life, and
personal luck.
Yeah, personal luck, and
heaven luck.
Heaven luck. Ooh,
yeah,
that's really interesting, isn't it? Okay.
So you find on a property, if you've got things like vortexes and things, so if you've got a negative vortex out the front of your house or your business.
But how do you know that?
You talk to someone like me, and I.
Well, you don't know you have these negative vortexes. So if you're in a business or you're living in a house and you've got these negative vortexes that are outside, is that something that means that when things aren't quite going right in your life, these are the things that affect it?
Yeah, definitely, Faye. If you're in a business or for your own health, if you can't put your finger on why your health is not getting better, or you might have a great business happening, and you might have the same price, the same product, or better, and great staff and everything else, and your business is just not thriving like the ones around you, then there's often something in the environment that's upsetting those energy flows. I think I might have mentioned in one of the other sessions we had where I was in a cafe in one of the
in
Melbourne. Walkways in Melbourne. Yeah, and then having the 3 cafes there, and 2 of them were thriving, 1 of them wasn't. They all had similar sorts of staff and prices and menus, etc. And yeah, walking down there with my dowsing rods, and yeah, there's a negative vortex out the front of it. And I think I might have done a little sneaky and fixed it for them, just because I like to help people out here, and then just a little the Geomancy fairy now and again. but you do know that. And here's another one for you. I had a stall in a wellness expo, and people were walking past and not even looking across our way. And after a little while, I thought, I wonder what's going on here. And there was actually a negative vortex in front of me and behind me. I cleared that, and then I started getting people to come in. So people perceive these things. It's like you being in your car at the traffic lights and someone's staring at you, and you think, Then you turn around and look, you get that feeling that's not quite right. So if you're selling a property or buying a property, and you're looking through realestate.com, and you just look at a picture of a house and say, no, I don't like that. But you don't really know why. Those energies that are in that house are in that photo.
Yeah.
And you're perceiving that that's not right for you. Or on the other side of it too, if you're used to being in a stressed house, that will be your comfort zone, so you will pick another stressed house.
How do you avoid that? I think you need to work with real estate people.
Yeah, I've tried to help a couple of them here and there. I've actually helped a few houses sell that had all sorts of yucky stuff going on in them that people wouldn't look at all. But yeah, I do that as part of the services I offer. I'll have a quick look at a house and tell you what I see. Sometimes there's layers in the land that sort of keep coming to the surface, but you can have a quick look around the area and just see what's going on there, and give some advice on what you see, and then people make an informed decision.
So it's interesting but how do people become educated to understand this sort of thing then? If you're going to buy a house or sell a house, you need to know these things before, don't you?
Yeah, they all need to be listening to your show, Faye. They find out all these interesting things.
I know. They will be, don't worry. Let's talk about something else, and it's the traditionally natural land stuff, but now man has influenced it. What does that mean? So
yeah, okay.
We have a big influence. Do we have?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, in going back a few hundred years, a lot of the people I've studied with, they're back in the early days of geomancy, so they're looking at the old earth energies and what they do around the earth. My knowledge is only fills up their toenail compared to what they actually know and can do in that space. But the last 100 years, we've had electricity and we've got machinery, etc. Our mining practices have changed, and we've got bloody fracking and all that sort of stuff going on. So now we've got cell towers happening, and we've got electrical power stations, and even your power box in your house might be sitting on some magnetic lines, which changes the frequency of all the magnetic lines in your house. And it could be like you're in a microwave, basically. All these layers of stress build up. It's like you're in a cloud of earthly stuff as well as man-made stuff on the surface. So it's a little bit scary when you see some of that stuff.
Well, I
haven't really got to the bottom of the 5G stuff yet, but I'm not looking forward to it.
It's really interesting with the internet, and if you don't have a cord plugged in, the Ethernet cord or whatever you call it, so you have wireless. All those energies are floating around your house everywhere you are.
Yeah, they are. We're in a big soup of all this horrible stuff.
And then you've got these. Yeah, keep going.
One of my main weapons for that space is as an energy or a tensor ring, and they're a very simple device. You can have one of these. They're a very simple looking device, but they're actually a tensor ring or an energy ring, and they're a quantum phenomena that seems to harmonise some of the energies that come out of that EMF stuff, and they also they create delta waves and things as well. So being sitting on one of these when you're meditating and stuff brings your vibration down to those lower brain waves and helps with your meditation, etc. They keep your vibe up. So yeah, I make these and I don't take mine off. It's on all the time. And so a lot of my clients do. They take it off. They wear it like their blankie. They take it off. They don't feel safe. Yeah. So
is it like those little rings and the bars that you put in places where those negative vortexes are? The little rings that...
Yeah, I make tinier ones than that, actually. Yeah, I make smaller ones than these, and I place them around the house on people's Wi-Fi boxes and in front of your TVs. TVs put out nasty beams, and all digital screens, even when they're turned off. Once they've been turned on once, they put out these beams. Sometimes you just find that your switchboard's on a couple of magnetic lines, and that'll radiate electromagnetically and geomagnetically at the same time. And putting one of these things on, it seems to harmonise a lot of that sort of stuff. And by that I mean different frequencies support us and different frequencies don't support us. So think soothing music or someone had their hand in a chalkboard and the way it affects our body, etc. And some of those frequencies we talked about before, some of those frequencies that we hate and make us sick actually support different sorts of life. So some birds, a lot of insects, especially bull ants, etc., they love those stresses. And the land's not necessarily sick, it's just not suitable for us. It's just different environment.
You said bull ants, but what about normal ants? When you see lots of normal ants around, what does that indicate?
Often
you can see rows and rows, a huge row of ants going from one place to another. A great long line. What does that mean?
Often, we'll tell a story about that in a second, but often the ants, the little rows that they make are often on the stress lines. They'll often walk on the stress lines. The little sugar ants and things don't seem to be so fussy about where they have their nest. They're more interested in food than other space. And you think something like an inchman, they're very low volumes of ants in those nests. Usually fairly small nests, and you'll hardly see any ants going in and out of those. But the little black ants and the Argentinian ants, they just seem to nest anywhere. But you'll find that they all walk in a row, and often those rows are on geopathic stress lines. And the little anecdote that I got around that is back in the day, most of the roads in Europe were built by the Romans, and they discovered that if their soldiers walked above an underground stream, then the moisture coming up as part of that stress would actually invigorate the soldiers and actually keep them healthier and more energy. They could march further in a day without getting fatigued. Right. So they'd have dowsers like myself actually mark those roads. So some of those roads have got some funny looking hooks and things in them, but they're actually following underground streams. Now that said, moving on those stresses is not too bad, but when you're actually stationary and you're living on them is what actually causes the issues for us. And you find that where there's roads, you then get communities come up. So you'll find, especially in Europe, you get all these little conjoined houses along the side of the road, all these cobblestone roads, and you find the same family also doing the same job for 3 or 4 or 5 generations. People just don't move on because they're stuck in these stresses. And when you're in these stresses, they keep your mind's brainwaves in beta. So you're in today just paying the bills rather than looking further down the road and planning and maybe getting an education and moving something somewhere else. And the people who had the education and the knowledge actually had long driveways and had their houses further back from the road. So there's just so much history in these little anecdotes.
Yeah, they didn't sit on the negative vortexes or those stress lines or anything like that. They moved themselves away from it. Yeah. So obviously they had the vining rods and checked out the land before they actually built their house. Well, that's pretty interesting, the knowledge that they have had, which has never been used really in present time.
Yeah, some of it's used, but it tends to be kept in the back rooms. A lot of water utilities and mining companies have got people like me that find their stuff for them, but because it's not mainstream, they tend to hide them in the back rooms. And when all else fails or they really want a good job, then they'll sneak these people out to do stuff. But
okay.
yeah, it's just the way it is. That's why we're having these sort of chats, mate. We're trying to educate people to know that there is options out there if your health's not good, and that there's different places you can look. I'll often find that when I've done a house that the energies in the house change quite considerably. Some people change jobs or they'll change a relationship. A lot of the energy that's been stagnant around them will move. Got no idea where it's going to move, but you just got to trust that wherever you're moving to is where it needed to move anyway, and you're moving on with your life. So having that 30% of 33% of your luck happening passively in the background because you've got your earth being maintained and your building being maintained, rather than spending thousands of dollars on education and not much you can do about your heaven luck at the moment.
No.
So once you're here, till you go.
Yeah.
So for several $100 you can actually get a house geomanced, and I can do some basic feng shui and stuff as well. But by the time you get a couple of those done, it's not a big outlay in the scheme of things, and it can help you move on with your life.
When you actually do that, it's a maintenance thing, isn't it? So you do it for the first time and you clear a lot of the negative energies, but you come back every so often, 3 to 6 months, and do it again. And so it's a maintenance thing. It's a bit like having your hair done, going to the dentist, having your nails done, and having your podiatry or whatever, massage, whatever it might be. It's a maintenance thing. It's an important part of your health and well-being.
Definitely. And people will balk at a few $100s, but they'll then take their kids to the pictures or on a little holiday for a week somewhere, and find that they're prepared to throw the money away in some of those little short-term fixes, but just a little investment in this space can probably bring more money in than what you would have spent on that anyway. Yeah. Just because you changed your environment there. Yeah, what you said there a second ago about maintenance. Said several hundred years ago we didn't have man making as much of an impact on the earth as it does now, and a geomancer will probably only visit your property once. For me, I'm finding properties need tweaking once every couple of months. So the product that I put out there, I do a place and I'll give people 3 tweaks of their property over 6 months. So they contact me when the house doesn't quite feel right, and we tweak it, and I hope to do some maintenance in 6 months' time. But in that 6 months' time, I'm hoping there's almost nothing to do, because we've kept you in a good space for the whole time, rather than me leaving 2 days after I've left your house. There's been a shopping complex put in and all your underground streams are upset again, and then you're on that for another 6 months before we actually tweak it again. So I'm there to try and keep you stable and things moving around. They put a new cell tower in, or change an antenna around, or even you might move your TV 100 mils to the right, that way, and you find us now on the magnetic line. You've actually created some issues in your house just by moving your furniture around, especially your electrical sort of stuff. I actually did a business in Hobart, and I'd done the business and I went back for their opening night to support them, and the place was just full of negative Hartman carry lines, which are the magnetic lines. And what they'd done is put some extension cords in to run some column heaters, and those extension cords ran across the magnetic lines and actually created all this stuff. So we had to put a few more energy rings in. It's just a bit of knowledge, and when people work with me for a while, they get to feel the house has changed a bit all themselves, and we just make a few little tweaks. That said, also, I keep pretty close contact with people for the first 3 or 4 weeks or so, and we keep tweaking the place and getting the energies right, and until we get it as best we can for you.
And you don't have
I don't just do it, dump it, and run.
Yeah, you don't have to be there physically to be able to do this. You can do it anywhere in the world at any time.
That is correct. I can do it just off maps, map housing.
So it's a virtual thing that you can actually do as well. Talk about churches.
Yeah, so I can check a price. Sorry, I can check a property for you anywhere in the world just by, if I can find you on Google Maps, I can have a look and see what's going on that property and what vortexes and underground streams and things are there. And normally when I deal with a person, that is where I start. I do a survey of their property from Google Maps. I draw up what I see there and have a chat with you for 20 minutes, and we talk about what's there and what we might be able to do about it. then we correct it. Assuming you want to go ahead with it, then we monitor it. I'll monitor it for a bit, but I've got so many clients now that I don't get to check in on every person all the time. Or unless they pop into my mind, I'll check on them. And then just doing that little bit of maintenance.
Yeah, and maintenance in any way is really important. Now you talked about the roads and the history of way back when. Let's talk about the churches. What where the churches sit on the land, because churches are a very valuable property. But what are the negativities and the negative vortexes and the stress lines and things like that are sitting below or around churches?
Yeah. There's some sacred geometry behind churches, and also the positioning of churches is usually quite deliberate, or from the older churches. So often you'll find there'll be 2 underground streams crossing the block of land that the church is on, and overlaying them, superimposed over them, would be a ley line. Where 2 ley lines cross, you get a vortex. Okay, so what they would do is put their altar over the top of the vortex. And some vortexes are positive, some are negative, but by the time they do their energy work in there, they're praying and all the other things that are going on in the church, usually that vortex becomes positive. And being on 2 streams like that, it becomes a positive vortex. So religion aside, moving from the pews up to the altar, you will feel uplifted because of this phenomena. And because it's over 2 streams, it also works as an earth acupuncture point. And you usually find above the altar there'll be a spire on the church. So the energy spirals upwards, and it actually works as an earth acupuncture point. So having an operating church in the area can be like having that big stone on the hill. It's actually a permanent earth acupuncture point. So the church closes down, often the village will start to get sick.
Isn't it interesting? I mean, most churches usually have that spiral, don't they?
Yeah.
Of some form, some really high and some not quite so high, but they're there. Interesting.
Yeah, and the actual layout itself, Faye, will be on the 7 chakras. So you would actually have the font where you dunk the baby is actually your base chakra, and where the throat chakra is where the choir sits. So there's a number of spots within the church, and the actual layout is on your 7 chakras layout. And they'd normally have a graveyard on one side and the vestry on the other side. So there's at least the church in between all the spirits coming through and affecting the sleep, etc., of the priests that are there. So yeah, lots of old stuff and lots of method in their madness. But people might still do it, but they don't necessarily know to ask the question why or understand the reasons behind the stuff.
It's quite interesting. We've talked about earth acupuncture. I suppose space clearing. When you go in, you would go into a space. You sit in a cafe. You won't put your back to the door, etc., etc. And I know law enforcement people, they never put their back to the door in a cafe or anywhere they sit. They're always facing the door, watching what's going on. And that's a very interesting thing. But they're probably doing it for a totally different reason to what you would do it for, the positive energies. What else can you tell us?
Well, the direction I'm facing in to talk to you now is one of my 4 good directions. You have 4 good directions and 4 not so good directions. So, if you're sleeping with your crown of your head facing one of your good directions, and where you sit to watch your TV or spend your leisure time, or anywhere where you spend a fair bit of time, if you're facing one of those good directions, then you're attracting that stuff to you from that direction nicely. So I'm facing northeast at the moment. I think northeast is my relationships direction, and here I am talking relationships with you.
I don't know what direction I'm facing in.
You have to consult your GPS.
I don't know what my GPS. Do I have a GPS? Just wait a minute. Keep talking.
We're talking. You just mentioned there a second ago space clearing. We hadn't actually covered that sort of space. And space clearing is actually all the energies that are in the earth from what's happened in the earth. So if you have a big argument in your house, then that energy actually gets stuck in the walls of your house, and then it becomes a stress. So if you have a site where someone's died, or especially under circumstances that aren't the best, with lots of little massacre and skirmish sites, they're actually everywhere. And if you go back to a year dot, I'm clearing stuff up around, even on my block of land that keeps coming to the surface, just keep layer after layer, and I'm 30,000 years ago. I'm back at the moment, and you clear one layer and then another layer just sort of comes up. We seem to be in this period of accelerated growth as a species, and everything seems to be evolving, and all these things keep coming to the surface.
Once you change one thing, then another thing comes up. Wow. Yeah.
Comes up. Yeah, it's all just going. So you got to keep an eye on that. And the same sort of thing happens with us as well in our own personal growth. We carry a lot of baggage, and we get rid of some stuff, and then a couple of weeks later you might find another layer's come up and you start to feel a little bit wonky again, and then we deal with another layer as part of what I do in the energetic emotional coaching side of things. But the properties is much the same, and you get energy forms which can be from those events that have happened, but you also get spirits that are stuck here as well, wandering spirits we call them, or ghosties as I like to call them. But they're everywhere as well.
And this might sound strange.
It's a soft touch, doesn't it?
I've experienced seeing something flash past me, and since we've been talking, and I'd say, oh, I know what that is, that's a ghost, or something. Sometimes people think you're a bit crazy when you say things like that, but it is a real thing, and it is a real experience in different homes. And I mean, if someone moves into an older home which has a lot of history to it, there could be deaths and all sorts of things in it. So there's lots of ghosties and all that sort of stuff. So be open to it. Be open to it and listen and know how you're feeling, and get in contact with Peter, because he can actually help you clear these things. And it might take quite a while to actually clear them, and it is a maintenance thing, so it's a constant. You have to be aware of how you're feeling, what your environment feels like, and then if it doesn't feel right, then Peter will help you change it and make it feel better.
Just send me a message.
Yeah.
What you're saying, that you find that many houses have actually got ghosts in them that people wouldn't know, and people tend to grind their teeth in their sleep and have weird dreams and things when they've got ghosties about. The ghosties. I'm not going there.
And I'm northwest. I'm northwest.
Oh, okay. We'll have to check your good directions for you. We'll do that later. Yeah. But you find that the ghosties are a similar stress to all the other stresses, and they're all the same touch and feel and temperature of them. So you can have them in a house and wouldn't know about them. So just imagine you're in a fog and a cloud comes through. You're not going to notice the cloud coming through because it's all the same consistency and temperature and magnitude, etc. So when I clear a place, then it's like a sunny day, and you will be more sensitive to changes in energy. So when the ghosts and things come through. And it's interesting what you said there a second ago. I was actually in a supermarket the other day, and some guy was talking to one of the staff members, and he said, "Oh, I think I've got a ghost in my house. Do you believe in ghosts?" I just had to knock on the door and say, I clear thousands of them a week, and that's what I do for a living. So, or part of what I do. It's just part of the whole geomancy space. But it's interesting. There's one end of people that's got no idea at all. They're living in a fog. And those energies are suppressing their life and their health and their 1/3 of their luck.
Yeah, and their clarity and their real thinking and everything like that. It affects everything, doesn't it?
Certainly does. Certainly does. So
on that note, what's a tip that you can give people who are listening to this that will help them understand what you're talking about? What is it that they can do to become more aware of their environment and their surroundings?
Yeah, well, the best way I can work with people is to actually do a survey of their property and talk about what's going on in that property, and then align that to what's happening with them. So I only charge a token $56 to do a survey remotely, and I'll send it to the people, and then we have a chat on the phone for 20 minutes or so, and we talk about what's going on there, and I can usually correlate exactly what's going on with their health or their family relations, and often mental health, etc., with what I can see on the property. So often we can tick a few boxes for them, and they say, yeah, I'll go with it, but it's a new space for them.
Yeah.
And I try to make it as clinical as I can. I don't try to make everything woo-woo. It's just day-to-day stuff for me.
Well, it's not really woo-woo when you understand it and allow a conversation so that people can understand it. And when they can sit and think about, that happened and that happened. Oh, now I know why. So they can have an answer to their why. Sometimes if they're not feeling well all the time, it's because they're living in a house which is, it could have some, well, it does, it has some form of negative energies in it, and that can be lots of different things that could be cleared over a period of time.
Definitely. We talked earlier on about the yellow brick road, the model I've got that I work with for life that came from the Wizard of Oz, life's path being yellow, and yellow solar plexus, life's path. We talk about all this emotional baggage and stuff being a backpack that you're carrying on, and that the life's path is basically like orienteering, and you're running around trying to learn all life's lessons, but each time you fail, you get a brick in your backpack. But just imagine that your property's holding you back as well. So there could be some unseen stuff in your backpack from where you're living that's actually holding you back on your life's path too. And when you clear some of that stuff, then your overall collective consciousness increases, and then you see the world differently. And then you go another step and you'll see the same stuff differently again. And that's stuff that I work with in my emotional coaching side of things. But it's all tied together. It's all quantum stuff that I don't understand, but I work with.
It's interlinked. I mean, you have an ability to do that sort of stuff and have an understanding of it, and you can help people. How can they get in contact with you, Pete?
Hopefully there's a little link on the bottom of this post when you put it up, Faye, and or you can find me on Facebook or Instagram, or on my website www.thesickpropertydoctor.com. Sorry, no there. It's propertywellnessdoctor.com.
I was going to say property wellness.
I've changed my company name and still got stuck in the old energy. So www.propertywellnessdoctor.com.
Beautiful. Thank you, Peter. And we'll be back with some more from Peter in another month. I'm Faye Waterman. This is Talking All Things Business, and it's bye for now.